standing here at the Mount Zion AME, African Methodist Episcopal Church. This building was built in 1834, and it was an important stop on the Underground Railroad. Each stop on the Greenwich line, that started in Springtown, Greenwich, was about 20 miles apart. And here inside the church, there's actually, which is still an active church today, actually a trap door in the vestibule, about 2 by 3 feet, where the slaves could be hidden on their route north. They would head, their next stop would be along this route, would have been Mount Holly, and from there all the routes lead to North Jersey to the Hudson River, across the Hudson River to New York City. New York City, either to upstate New York or Freedom, Virginia. This land that the church stands on was given to the African American community. It was also called Small Gloucester here in Woolwich, or Dutchtown. And anti-slavery Quakers ceded the land to the African American community here. So we're going to take a walk around the church. About 200 yards behind the church is the Mount Zion AME Church Cemetery. So we're going to take a look there next. Here we are at the AME Church Cemetery, Mount Zion Cemetery. It's about a couple hundred yards behind the church. Here there are about 200 African American people buried here in this cemetery. Many of the graves are not marked, but there are several Civil War soldiers and sailors buried here, African American soldiers and sailors that I'd like to show you their graves. So if you want to follow along, we're going to walk over this way, and we'll get started over here. So the oldest grave in this cemetery dates back to 1861. That is the oldest grave site that's marked. There's probably older graves here, and it's not just soldiers and sailors. It's people who were runaway slaves too that are also buried here. Now this particular gentleman is William Bond. And William Bond was a private in the 22nd United States Colored Troops, USCT. And he enlisted on 17 December 1863 in Philadelphia. There was a training camp, Camp William Penn in Philadelphia. And he was the son, his father had enlisted in the 8th United States Colored Troops, and he died on October 14th, 1864. That's the father as a result of wounds received in battle. So here you have a father and son. Now, the father is buried in Hampton, Virginia at the National Cemetery there. We're going to walk over this way, just behind William Bond. We have here a gentleman, Nafi Aku, who was also in the same regiment, the 22nd USCT, Company F. Now, the interesting thing about the 22nd United States Colored Troops, their regimental flag depicted a soldier, an African-American soldier, bayoneting a white officer, a Confederate officer. I think I have a picture of it here. And what's unique about this photo of the regimental flag of the 22nd USCT is that it was made in a retaliation, you might say, for the massacre of 300 African American soldiers at Fort Pillow on April 14th, 1864. Now, when the 22nd USCT went into action in the initial attacks on Petersburg, June 15th through the 18th, 1864, they charged the earthworks, and their battle cry was, "Remember Fort Pillow." Now, those 300 African Americans and their white officers who tried to surrender, but many of them were killed in the act of after they had surrendered, actually. So their, of course, their attack, they wanted to give no quarter to the Confederates who surrendered at Petersburg. And there's an interesting account of a soldier from the 117th New York who says that their regiment had to interpose themselves between the 22nd USCT and their Confederate prisoners. They wanted to, tit for tat for what had happened at Fort Pillow. But there are several, a few of the soldiers from that same regiment, the 22nd USCT. So this is Alan Thomas, enlisted March 23rd, 1865, and mustered out October 20th, 1865. And his occupation is listed as a basket maker. And his spouse, his wife, was Rebecca Nee Williams, who were married in Woolwich, July 4th, 1853. So I do have some information about William Thomas. Or I'm sorry, Alan Augustus Thomas. Now this is Benjamin F. Wilson, probably Benjamin Franklin Wilson, and he's a landsman on the USS Nearchus. Now, I wasn't able to find a ship called the USS Nearchus. However, one survey has Benjamin Wilson serving on the USS Powhatan, a different ship. But you can see he was a young man when he enlisted in the Navy, and he died in 1923. Now, the U.S. Navy was always integrated, unlike the Army. And then when the Army finally decided that to enlist black soldiers, they were under white officers. The U.S. Navy, always short of manpower, they never had any qualms about enlisting black sailors. So this gentleman, Benjamin Wilson, served aboard USS Nearchus during the Civil War. All right. Now this is David Hutchinson, and you see his stone, a government issue stone, and you can see how clear that still is after all these years. And his regiment was also the 22nd USCT Company F. You can see quite clearly on his tombstone. Over here, we have Aaron S. Senneman, who was a private in the 41st United States Colored Troops, Company F. Now, he was also at Petersburg in the trenches before Richmond, and the 41st United States Colored Troops was part of the Army of the James, and they fought until Appomattox. Okay. Now here we have two sailors, two African-American sailors, and they're very, very close to each other. Moses and White, landsman aboard USS steamer Gloucester, and he died in 1917. And over here we have Stephen Wilson, also served aboard the USS Glaucus. The Glaucus was part of the North Atlantic blockading squadron, and while she was chasing a blockade runner off of Wilmington, North Carolina. Wilmington, North Carolina, the ship caught fire, and it caused the fire, sailor's worst nightmare, caused a considerable amount of damage, and the ship had to be towed back to Philadelphia for extensive repairs. So both of these two gentlemen were aboard that ship. This is John G. Griffin, and he was a landsman aboard USS Princeton. And I have a photocopy of a drawing of the Princeton. Now, she was a receiving ship, and you can see it's a steamer with auxiliary sails. And the landsman, the rank of landsman is like most of these gentlemen here are landsmen. That is the lowest rank in the Navy. You start out as a landsman and then get promoted to seaman and so forth. But a landsman is somebody who doesn't have much experience aboard ship. But these men were eager to serve their country, and so they signed up for the Navy and the boring blockade duty, but it was very necessary to cut off supplies to the Confederate Army by intercepting blockade runners who were trying to bring supplies to the beleaguered Confederate armies. Okay, we're almost near the end. I think we've got most of the sailors and soldiers. Now, this is John Bnton, and he was with he wasn't in an infantry regiment or a sailor. He was with the United States Colored Troops Heavy Artillery, and his company, his regiment, was posted in New Orleans, Louisiana, where he was on garrison duty there. But the colored troops, the black troops, USCT troops, were you had infantry, you had cavalry, heavy artillery, and of course you have many sailors also serving in the U.S. Navy. Well, that's just about all of the sailors and soldiers who are buried here in the Mount Zion AME Church Cemetery. And I'm proud to be able to lead you on this little tour, and I hope you were able to learn something about some of these brave men who served during our Civil War. Thank you. Bye.